25 years ago, a devastating tornado ripped through the small West Texas town of Saragosa.
The tornado wiped out 80% of the community, killing 30 and injuring over 100.
Well, 22 of those deaths came from Saragosa Hall, where a graduation ceremony was taking place. Tornado warnings were broadcast by local radio and TV stations, but the warnings came too late.
In this special report, meteorologist Emily Borchard takes a look back at a day that changed Saragosa forever.
It just seemed like a normal, windy day. Most of the people were not aware of how severe it could be.
But this day would turn into a nightmare. Elia Estrada and about 100 other people were attending a graduation ceremony for the Head Start program in Saragosa Hall when the tornado came barreling through town.
We came to the graduation. About halfway through is when there were some people that were outside that noticed the tornado coming. After it was over, it was just chaos. I mean, everything was level. It was just a big mess. All you could hear was basically screaming and running, crying, just trying to take shelter. I had two of the little girls that were there, and I had them covered with me. And we were not under a table. We were just against the wall when those walls just started cracking up and falling over. We had several that they were pulled out of there, but they were already gone. It was devastating. Most of them were just family members of the graduation class and the teachers.
Seeing images of how the tornado left Saragosa and hearing stories of those involved, you can understand that residents had little to no time to react to the tornado and were left with few safety options. Peggy Walker has lived in Saragosa since 1983. She and her husband Bob lost everything. The memories of that night are still vivid.
I looked out the window and I saw things in the air being blown around, and I was born and raised in West Texas, so I knew what was happening, and I got in a closet. I heard lots of noise. What I remember more than noise is the smell, and the smell was of just an extreme wet. Ran out the back door, and the back of the house was completely gone, and started looking for Bob and found him in the barn with the barn caved in on him. When I went out and saw him in the barn, and that is something I'll never forget. I thought he was gone. I said, "We've lost everything we have." And he said, "I'd rather lose everything we've got than lose one fingernail off your finger."
For emergency responders on the scene, it was a heartbreaking sight. Reeves County Emergency Management Coordinator Ricky Herrera couldn't believe his eyes.
Well, it was total devastation. As far as existing buildings or homes, there was nothing left, so it was hard to really place yourself on a certain street or corner because you just didn't know, there was just debris everywhere.
Mary Haley also recalls the devastation when she came with Winkler County Ambulance.
It was eerily quiet for the amount of destruction that you have and the amount of people that were there. The whole town, probably the highest thing in the whole town, was 3-foot-high rubble. The parking lot outside that kindergarten graduation, it looked like somebody had been in a wrecking yard where they crushed the cars and stacked them. They were stacked up like that. And they had a school bus where they were placing the bodies after they'd been identified. They had them wrapped up in the back of pickup, rolled up in blankets before that. The destruction was just unlike anything I'd ever been around. I'd heard about it, but I'd never seen it. It was just almost total destruction of the town.
Tornadoes are rare for Reeves County. Records show that before 1987, only 20 tornadoes had touched down. The 1987 tornado was short-lived and surprisingly strong. Many in this area have the mentality that tornadoes just don't form near mountains.
Just kind of hit everybody by surprise. And at that time, there was no storm shelters or, none of the buildings around here had any storm shelters to where they could go for cover. Everybody could just kind of did what they could at home. It was just instinct. Everybody just kind of thought of the best they could do.
Those in the Saragosa Hall were warned from a man that ran into the building to pick up his son after seeing the approaching tornado. 25 years ago, there was no tornado siren or shelter back then, but today, things are different.
The early warning systems probably would have saved a lot of lives. They've made a big difference.
Meteorologist Emily Borchard, News West 9.